sometimes in ministry you just get put into some really awkward positions, things that you were not trained to do. Ministry training, you kind of learn how to do like normal things that you might think you would encounter in ministry, but life is not normal and people are not normal, and in ministry you end up in some really odd situations, things that you're not really prepared for in a specific sort of way. You're prepared for them generally speaking, like as a human being, that you've had experiences that allow you to work through things on the fly. But when you learn how to preach, you learn how to minister to people, or do weddings and funerals and things like that, nobody prepares you for some of the things that you're going to encounter. Like we were at one funeral where we're doing visitation and we're shaking hands and hugging and just seeing everybody through, and all of a sudden this loud boom takes place, and we look over it, and the casket lid, the little arm that was holding it up, somehow wasn't like locked in, and it just slammed shut right there. Everybody in the room, and everybody just froze. It was a very frightening moment, where I think about the time when we were doing a funeral for a lady who died in her 80s, and she was always late to everything, just notoriously late. And we, the family, were meeting and talking about how the funeral is going to go. And they're like, "Hey, will you take Grandma, and we're going to take the coffin during the service, and we're going to leave it down this side hallway. And about 10 minutes into the eulogy, she's not going to be up there. There's not going to be anything up there, but we're going to open the door and wheel her in while you're doing the eulogy, because Grandma was like notoriously late, and she's going to be late for her own funeral." Okay. Or I remember this one funeral. This one's a little more serious, but it just caught me so off guard. When sometimes you do funerals for people who you've never met. The funeral home has someone who doesn't have a minister, and they call around looking for a preacher to do the funeral, do the eulogy. And so I get this call, and they're like, "We have this family here, and they want a preacher to do the eulogy, and we don't know anyone here in town. So if is this something you'd want to do?" So I said, "Sure, I'll go down there. I'd love to help." And as I would, I'd still love to help. And so I go down, meet the family. We sit down, and I always take some notes. Just tell me about your loved one. Tell me about their life. What kind of things did they like? What was their relationship with God like? Just fill me in, because I want this to be fairly personal, and I don't want to just do a stock service. Just let me know what kind of hobbies did they have. Do they love their family? I mean, just tell me about it. Well, he really loved Jesus, and he was a staunch member of of a church, and all this, and just a saint, absolute saint. So the funeral day comes a few days later, and the service starts, and the family begins sharing stories. But before they begin sharing stories, they had to play Freebird, right? They're going to have to play some Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven. I mean, there's all these songs playing, which are great songs. Like, this is up my alley, but I'm like, this is not a normal funeral, right? And then one of the family members gets up, and he's talking about his uncle, I think, and he's saying, Uncle Joe, it's a real shame how he died, drunk crossing the street and got hit by that bus. I said, whoa, I guess I should have asked how he died, I guess that question kind of slipped my mind. And then I'm sitting there on the front row, and I'm looking down at my notes, and it's like I'm preaching this guy to heaven, and I had all these assumptions based into my eulogy, based on the interview, based on the family conversation, that there wasn't anything like this going on. And so I'm just kind of rifling through my eulogy, going, well, I'll keep this, keep that, chunk that, don't say this. You're going to have to be a lot more vague than what you were. Well, we know that God loved him, and these sorts. And I'm not saying we'd ever be mean or anything like that. There's no room for that. And again, we don't judge people to heaven or hell. That's God's job, not mine. But it certainly put me on the fly there, trying to figure out things that I could say or maybe not say, because you want to be honest. You want to have integrity in what you're doing, especially in moments like that. But you also remember, this is not about me. And the main thing with doing a funeral is you are there for the family. You are there to comfort them, which is why you do things like let Grandma roll in 10 minutes late into the middle of the eulogy. If you were prideful, you're going to take that personal, like, well, no one's going to interrupt my eulogy. No, you're there for the family, and whatever it is that they need is what needs to happen. Now, if they need him to be, preached to heaven, he's a Satan worshiper or something like that, that's not going to fly. But we really need to set the family at ease in times like that, and that means sometimes we're just willing to do things that we just think maybe are a little strange or not the way that we would do it. But everybody's going to do it a little bit differently. and we're going to respect that and kind of roll along with the punches. We talk about some weddings sometime. You think about one of the weddings that I did out in California, and this couple, I get there and I've got all my notes and everything prepared, and we get right up to the time of the ceremony. It's an evening ceremony. It's on the New Year's Day, and the bride comes up to me and says, "Would you mind wearing this during the wedding?" Like, wearing what? She pulls up a full headpiece for a GoPro. Okay, they want like preacher perspective shot of the two of them getting married. I'm like, that's so creative, but that's so awkward. Like, for me, like, I'm such an introvert. I was like, are you serious? Are you gonna? This is so embarrassing. And I'm like, not here for you, Matt. Here for them. They get what they want. Everyone's different. Don't make a fuss. Do what they want and let them have the ceremony as they see it. Put yourself back there in the back seat and don't sweat it. You're taking one for the team. This is what you're going to find in ministry, and it's a trip. It's a ride. There's some funny stuff that happens in weddings and funerals and sermons and things. People who just stuff that happens, things you see. You know, when you're sitting in a church service, you're looking at the back of a head, but the preacher's seeing everybody. And there's some crazy stuff, you know, that we see sometimes when we preach or we teach Bible classes and things like that. So, you know, share a funny thought, a funny memory in the comments on this one, and let us know some experiences that you've had at a funeral or a wedding or something different that happened. And there's just some great stuff that goes on. And I'm just glad to be alive. I'm glad that God has a sense of humor and we get put in these positions that stretch us and challenge us, but make us laugh. You know, not always in the moment, but certainly in retrospect. Sometimes you just have to laugh, and that's the best thing we can do. So I hope this has made you laugh, and I hope it's made you as uncomfortable as it makes me at some point in time in this video. Man, give us a thumbs up, a share, a like, a subscribe, whatever you want to do, and because we just love the fact that you're here, and we love the fact that you're part of this Wineskins YouTube community. If you don't know about wineskins.org, I would love for you to visit that as well. We're having great conversations over there too. So God bless you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.